Well, good evening and happy new year to everyone from all of us here at Step Up, Make a Difference, the podcast. Welcome to 2026, our first episode of this year. And Marty Durden, how's it going up in North Georgia?
Oh man, things are great up here. It's cold and wintry and wind is blowing like crazy, but it's a good place to live up here, North Georgia. I feel very fortunate and blessed. God's been good to us.
Yeah, it is a blustery day here in the Columbus area. We're here in East Central, or yeah, West Central Georgia, excuse me, East Central Alabama. The wind has been howling all day long. It's got it feeling a little bit cooler outside than it would be otherwise, but going to be cold this week. But that front's coming through, and it always gets really windy when the front comes through. And just like bringing in the new year, we've got week one down of the new year 2026, and we're anxious to get back going here on Step Up, Make a Difference podcast. And without further ado, we're going to talk about one of the largest viewed episodes that we had was with Mr. Bo Sasnett. And he has agreed to join us again today to start off the new year 2026. And Bo, welcome back to Step Up.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Marty. Great to be with y'all. It's an honor to be the first one of the year of 2026. And it's nice to hear that we had some good viewership from our previous episode. Had such a great time doing that. So appreciate y'all and appreciate you all making a difference out there.
Thank you. We feel like that your wisdom is what the comments that I've been receiving from people was about how adept you are at leadership, and like these relational skills are just so obvious in what you do, Bo. And I think that is part of being a servant leader, is being able to relate to other people.
Well, Marty, I appreciate that, really do, and it's great to hear that kind of feedback. And that's maybe one thing. Maybe it's my advanced age, or my experience in life, but it's just it's nice to hear that, and it's something I would hope for. So I really appreciate it. Hey, can I know you guys may have a few things you want to talk about, but I had two things that I wanted to talk about today, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So first off, and I know this is primarily a sports-oriented show, but as Mike knows and talked to me about last time, I'm a music lover. I've got my music in the back here, right? One of my kind of heroes passed away yesterday. His name was Bob Weir of the Grateful Dead, and I've been following the Grateful Dead ever since I was in my early teens, and so I've been following them for over 50 years. He died yesterday at the age of 78. But the thing I'd like to say about, not only did he touch a lot of people's lives and impact a lot of people's lives over the years, but he also, if you really looked at how he handled his music over the years, it's probably some leadership lessons for us there. Quite an amazing guy. I mean, it's estimated that he performed over 4,500 live shows in his life, and he was working up until he died. He was playing music and giving people enjoyment up until he died. He did not retire or coast or go away or anything like that. And so it's really something that's like I said, meaningful to me. I've been listening to him for 50 years. And a lot of people think when they hear the Grateful Dead, first off, they think, oh, that's kind of some weird stuff, right?
It's really
psychedelic or whatever, but they had a lot of influences from bluegrass to country to blues and jazz in their music. And I don't know how many Grateful Dead or Dead offshoot shows I've seen, but it's probably over 50 or so shows in my day. And the one thing I know is that community really loved that music. And if you ever went to one of their events, you know, it was about, you know, kind of about peace and love and brotherhood, which is really some great stuff. And one thing about that I admired about Bobby Weir was not only did he consistently work on his craft and continue to work over the years, but he embraced change. And like over the last 10, 15 years, he brought on people around him, some very talented musicians that were younger than him. But he brought that youth in, and that music was some of the best that he ever had throughout their career. I mean, it was really some amazing music. And once again, he had a large impact on a lot of people. So I just wanted to shout out on that and reflect a little bit about that as he passed yesterday. And I think he touched a lot of people's lives out there. So that was one thing.
I think that's fascinating. You know, I think when I think of the Grateful Dead, I think of Bill Walton.
Yeah.
He loved that. And
oh my gosh. And I was so glad that I got to take my son to a few shows. And we were at a show in Colorado, and Bill Walton came out and walked right past us, said hello and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty amazing. I mean, he stood out like a sore thumb in that crowd since he's like 6'11" or whatever. And and all the fans are yelling, Bill, 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 you know. And even though, you know, he had his health challenges, right? He was still out there enjoying it and just being as positive as could be, you know. So it was pretty cool. So anyways, thought I would make a shout out there.
That's good. Our music expert on this is Mike Peacock. So we used to go to music trivia on Wednesday nights. Okay. We did that for about a year. And when the music part of it came up, I was the sports guy. We had another guy who was a science guy, another one who was a history guy. The music, he owned that place. Before you knew it was almost like name that tune. By the time they played three notes, he was already writing down the answer.
I love that.
Right.
Well, it was, you know, I was especially good on 80s nights. You know, when there was a lot of 80s music.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was my era. You know, that was, you know, I'd say mid 70s all the way through the 80s.
I think that's my era too. Yeah.
If it was in that wheelhouse, I was pretty good, you know, and I'm pretty good about knowing who it is and knowing a lot of the songs and stuff like that. So, I tell you, what you were saying about what you were saying about the Grateful Dead. Anytime somebody lasts as long as they did, and their music still lives on, and their reputation still lives on, it says something about the fact that they did things right.
No doubt.
They catered to the fans. They put a product out there that the fans wanted, and like you said, they were willing to adapt and willing to change a little bit. I remember one of their last real big albums came out in the '80s, I believe, and they had the music video on MTV where they were all skeletons.
Yeah.
And Touch of Grey, I think, was the name of that song. You know, that album, that particular time, it did really well in the charts. And they were considered older guys then.
Right.
It was pretty amazing to see them still up there and still drawing the crowds that they did, and you know, they continue to do.
And where they really made their impact was in their live shows and the following they have, and people would, you know, there'd be a lot of people taping them and things like that over the years. But I mean, and they were legend for never playing the same show twice, right? They would always have a different set list and different, they play songs differently. And so you could go to multiple shows and never see the same show. But one of the things that, like towards the end, Bobby Weir and a couple of other of the originals, they created Dead and Company they brought in John Mayer, who you've probably heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent guitarist and singer. And John Mayer and a couple of other guys played with them for the last 10 years. And they made an amazing combination of talent and the younger guys along with the older guys, instead of, you see a lot of groups these days where it's just a bunch of old guys up there and, they don't have it like they used to. But I mean, the music they were playing together with Dead and Company was incredible. And they played some shows out at the Sphere in Las Vegas and created this amazing scene with all the visuals for the Sphere and the big screen and everything. And that's just another part about embracing change and using today's technology. And I think John Mayer helped him a lot with that. But it was just quite amazing, the shows they put on.
When I woke up this morning and I knew we were going to have the show, I never envisioned that it would go to the Grateful Dead. But since we have, isn't it amazing that the things you just talked about embody servant leadership? Like for instance, this idea of your successor, the whole point to being a servant leader is not to create followers, it's to create people, other servant leaders. Yeah. And that's what, bringing in new people like they did, that's a perfect example of that. What do you think about that, Bo?
Well, I think that in my mind, he did not have a big ego, and it wasn't about him. It was about their music and their community. And I think you're exactly right, Marty. And what I think he hoped for is for his music to live on with the other leaders that have come on, right? And so I think it's a great legacy to leave something like that, right? It's a great observation. The other thing that I would say that's kind of insightful for me is that when you went to one of their shows, and Mike can appreciate this, you would see multiple generations of people. And so you would see people and believe me, I went like as recent as last year to the Sphere in Las Vegas, and you would see people in their teens or early 20s or even younger than that with their parents, with people that would be their grandparents, people my age, even people were there that made me feel young, So, I mean, it was but that was amazing that they could touch so many people from multiple generations too, which is, I think that says a lot about leadership as well, and long-lasting leadership, Mike, like you were saying. So sorry to turn the channels on this, but I just wanted to give that shout out. And
that's
Marty,
absolutely okay.
Yeah, Marty and Mike, the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, if it's okay, is starting off the year. Right. And for me, anyways, I always find the first of the year is just a great time. The last of the prior year, first of the new year is a great time because it allows us, and it's just a time on the calendar, right? But it gives us the opportunity to look back and say, hey, what are the good things that happened over the year? What are the challenges that we've had? What could we have done differently? What did we learn? What did we accomplish? And then it gives you the opportunity looking forward to say, what do we want to do in this next year? What do we want to do in 2026? And it gives us that time of reflection and looking back, but then also that time of moving forward and saying, here's what I want to accomplish for the year. And I always think it's really a good thing to spend that time, even if it's an hour or 2 hours, reflecting and then thinking about, well, what do I want to do in 2026? And then for me anyways, I think it's important to write some of those things down and have them documented so you can look back at them. Now, there are probably a lot of leadership experts that will say, okay, here are your big goals, then then break them down into little bits and then crystallize into action items and then, do this week. And a lot of people can do that and are good at doing that and they accomplish a lot. For me, I like to write down those big goals and just keep them in my sight. So I can always be looking at them and knowing, and I'm heading in those directions. And just by doing that, I've found for me, I've been able to accomplish a lot of those goals. And so I think it's a great time of year. And I hope that our listeners can take something from that. And even, and like I say, I'm not the best at doing, like breaking it down into week by week or day by day or whatever. But if you have those big goals written down, I think it helps you see them as a compass and head in that direction. And so hopefully that would be helpful for some of our listeners today.
Absolutely. And Bo, I don't know if you read much of John Gordon's work or not, but John Gordon, and we had a guest that was with FCA that worked a good bit with John Gordon by the name of Dan Britton. And those two and another guy have come up with a thing. They started 2 or 3 years ago. They called it One Word, and they do what they call the One Word Challenge. And they challenge everybody to come up with one word for the coming year. It started in January. And you have your word, whatever that may be. And I think I've pretty much settled on mine. It's taken me a little while, but some people use things like commit. Some people use, just whatever those words might be. Some of them involved, participate, different things like that they come up with. My word this year, I believe, is going to be seek. I'm going to seek opportunities. I'm going to seek to find answers. I'm going to seek to get better. Seek is a great word. The biggest thing I'm going to seek for this year, I think, is seek to follow God's leading a little bit better in my life as I go about. But always seeking, what that next step is or whatever. But I think that's a cool thing, and I get little emails from John Gordon every day, daily positive, and different things like that. And he's written so many books. He's got a new book about to come out that is probably going to be really good. Most of them are, but he's the same way. He's a leadership guy. He's a servant leadership guy, and the methodology can be different for everyone.
Yeah,
how you those goals, how you want to accomplish things, what you want to do. But the idea, I think, for anybody, no matter who your leader or your guru or your example might be, is to have going into the year, have some sort of plan to follow and things to look at, gauge. Am I doing what I want to do? Am I doing what I need to do? Am I doing what I'm meant to do? And I think those are things that you need to look at when you head into a new year.
Yeah, I think that's great. And Mike, I love the one word thing, and I've heard of that as well, but I didn't know it was his way or what he teaches and leads people to. But I think that's a great thing. For me, I also like to look at the different parts of my life. I like to look at things from my work life, my spiritual life, my, home life, my, my physical fitness, just all these different areas of my life that I want to review and maybe set some goals on where I want to be, what I want to accomplish in the year and years ahead too. So it's not only work, right? But there's a lot of other things obviously in life that are important, and work is a means to an end. It's not the whole thing, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at that. It's just what we do. It's not what we are,
Right.
Not necessarily our purpose. It's, I guess you would say maybe it's our toolkit, right? But
Marty, it's a great point, and especially one of the things that I think is a challenge for people is figuring out or being blessed with knowing what your purpose is, right? And maybe, Mike, a better way of saying it is seeking what your purpose is, right? But I think that it's a real blessing if somebody can spend the time and be able to identify and say, well, this is what my purpose is, what my purpose in life is, because it can really allow you to focus in on what you want to do and who you want to be.
It sure can. And it is, and it all goes along, and Bo, in your business and in the coaching business, that a lot of our viewership are in the coaching and athletic world. One of the big things that we want to, that we're trying to help with, is developing people, helping them develop into and being able to know what to look for when they're maybe trying to find what that purpose is, what their the reason they've been put here. And I know in your business world, as you have run different aspects of your company and different things like that, you are always looking to develop people and
For sure.
get them to the next level. And talk about that a little bit, and how important is that as you start a new year, how important it is to start on that road to development of helping people get better.
Well, I'd say this, that a couple of things. So first off, as I have, as we go into a new year, every year we get older, you start to see things maybe a little differently, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned over time is how important people are to being able to grow an organization, and having the right people in the right places is so important, and investing in people is so important. And as we've scaled our company, and we're not a huge company, but we're big enough. We're over 1,000 employees, right? 1,300, 1,400 employees. And I've just seen how important it is to have the right people in the right places, and to do that, how important it is to develop people. And in today's world, you have a lot of people who tend to move around in jobs a lot. I think it's really important to have retention programs to be able to retain key people and develop key people. And so I think organizationally, if you're able to do that, you keep experienced people and you continue to develop them along the way, I think you're going to really succeed as an organization. Now, I look at the on the sports side of things, and Mike, I think you and Marty both brought it up last time we talked. There's a lot of similarities, right? There's a lot of similarities in the business world and in, say, a coach running a big organization, right? I think about somebody like Nick Saban, right? And man, what a great executive he is or was, and the organization that he built. And you look at the people he developed. I mean, you look at the college football playoffs, and all his old assistants are the guys, coaching those teams, right? Or they've come from his tree, right? And it just says something about developing those people. And with him,
let me add one thing to that. That is so amen. That it may have been Saban's first collegiate job. He was hired by Frank Signetti.
Yeah.
Coach Signetti's father, obviously, right? So you talked about relationships and legacy. I'm glad you brought that up, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's another point. One of the things I've been blessed with in my career is I've been in this industry that I'm in for like 40 years. So I've known a lot of people over a lot of years, and I've had quite a good network and known a lot of people. And so it's been a blessing to me to be able to, either bring in some of those people or to, partner with some of those people, that type of thing. Very, very similar to that, Marty. The other thing I was going to say that's a little bit different is, I think in today's coaching world, it is just amazing at how quickly coaches and assistant coaches move around now. And we're not even talking about the players yet, right? But they move around a lot because an assistant coach will get promoted or get a new job or whatever, and you can't fault that because they're doing what they feel is right for their family, and they're trying to grow as people and take on more responsibility, things like that. And in our world, we have somewhat of the same thing, but for us, we're looking to retain people and give them opportunities to grow within our organization. And, we're hoping to have people, and by the way, we do have people in our organization that have been with the companies, the original operating companies, longer than I've been in the industry. I mean, 40 plus years, which is amazing, right? And then we've got people that have been with us for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. And then we've got a lot of new people coming in. But I love being able to have people that have had kind of been there, done that, and seen, but also are willing to grow. They're willing to embrace change. They're willing to learn and take on more. That's important. You can't just have somebody that's just going to stick around and just do it like we always did it, right? Because you always want to get better, and you always want to be thinking about how we can do things in a better way and continue to positively impact people, right?
Absolutely. And I had and here's this changing landscape of athletics. And you were right. You were 100% right, Bo, about coaches moving around a lot. A lot of times, head coaches will tend to stay a little bit longer, but those assistant coaches who maybe their goal is to become a head coach, they are going to move quite a bit, usually. I think maybe one of the last coaching staffs that stayed together for a long time was probably Joe Paterno's staff at Penn State before all of the bad things ended.
Yeah,
it's been with him a long time.
It's Mike. It's really interesting to me, and I'm amazed at somebody like Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, even though I'm a Georgia Tech fan, where when they have great success and their assistants go on to be head coaches, how they are able to bring in new people into their systems and help them become great leaders and develop more leaders. That to me is one of the hardest but most rewarding things you could do. But for them to do it like on an annual basis, that's really hard.
It really is.
Business. It's a people business. I mean, relationships are everything in leadership. It's how you treat people, how you develop people. It's just amazing how you said you use the word legacy. Your legacy is going to end up being people. It's not that you built skyscrapers or invented things that people remember you by. The people that are the small circle that surround you, the deep friendships. It's about how you treated them and how you helped them when they were down and how you were defined during adversity in your life. That's what the mark of a great leader is how he treats people, how she treats people, and then how those people learn that lesson and go out and do that and pass that baton to the next group.
Right on, Marty. And Marty, I like to think of it as family, and that, although it's our work family or, our family at home, it's family. And I try to look at how I would treat people. Well, first off, this is just Bo, right? I try to treat people as I would like to be treated, right? With common courtesy and respect. I think everybody should be treated the same way. Doesn't matter, what their job title is or what they do. They all should be, treated with that same courtesy, kindness, respect. And I think for me, once again, to care about those people. And, I've got a good friend of mine who works in our organization, has been with us for, 20 plus years. He right now is in his wife's in the ICU, and she's got a bad pneumonia, and he's with her there by her side. And, I'm trying to stay in touch with him and seeing if there's anything we can do, and trying to help out and praying for him. And it's just something, that I feel like as leaders, we also need to make sure that we are caring for our people outside of the job, right? And just like we, on an everyday basis, like we would as just good people. And that's what I try to bring to our team, is that type of thought process and leadership.
I think that's huge. I think that if you are a true leader, you are not just interested in the people that are working under you, that you are serving as a servant leader, just for what they can bring to your business.
Right.
You're interested in their lives. You're interested in their children. You're interested in what's going on with them all through the whole gamut of their personality and their family, their life, because you want to be able to affect their relationships on all aspects of that. And you can't do that if you don't know. If like you're absolutely given a great example of staying in touch with your man that you work with, and while he's going through a really rough time. And you also want to be there when they're having those great times too, when they've got a child that's graduated, or they've just had their first grandchild, or whatever, any of those experiences. You want to experience that with them, and you want to let them know that you care about them through all of that thing, through whatever it may be, and you're there with them. And I think it's important for them to know that you're there with them. And I think that's what good leaders do. We're going to care about you no matter what, and no matter what aspect of your life it is. We're not just interested in what you bring to the table at work. Or for coaches, we're not just interested in what you bring to the field or to the court. We're interested in how your grades are going. We're interested in how your relationships are going. We're interested in what your plans are for your future. All of that, and it's that's what a good servant leader does.
And Mike, getting back to the sports side in college athletics with the transfer portal, that's got to be getting harder and harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
When those athletes, those kids are coming in and then they're gone the next year, right?
Yeah.
It's got to make that hard. But I still believe that ultimately, if you're a leader that cares and is supportive and is encouraging them and helping them achieve greater things, I think in the end that will still win, and that will still you'll create loyalty with your troops, and you'll create people that want to grow and become better with you, even though it's harder now with the situation in the transfer portal and the coaches and all that.
Well,
had a great talk today.
Excuse me.
Go ahead,
Going back to the theme of our show today, the Grateful Dead. Hold on, tie that in there. Bill Walton one time gave a talk that I listened to, and he talked about Coach Wooden, right, who he loved.
Yeah.
And he said that no player that ever played for Coach Wooden ever heard him say the word win or lose. He stuck to his principles. It was the way he treated people. And he felt that winning was a byproduct of the way he treated people. And I think that's right in line with you and the Grateful Dead. So I'm glad. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Absolutely. A segue, yeah. But what I was saying is, came out of church this morning and ran into a good friend of mine, and we were standing there talking, and he's a big Alabama fan, and I'm a big Auburn fan, and there were some big Georgia fans right there around us. We've got a plethora at our church. We've got fans of everybody. We were talking about some different things, and we were, the subject, and we could make a whole show about the transfer portal and everything, and the money that's going around right now and everything, and how that's affecting college football. But we had a really good discussion, and we've already mentioned development. We've already mentioned developing people, and for many, many years, development has been one of the main jobs of college athletics, especially in football. You are developing that player, trying to get them ready for that next level, and some of them will play at that next level, but at the same time, you're developing them as men to go to the next level of life, whatever that is. Sometimes that doesn't involve a football field anymore. That involves them going out, being a good father, a good husband, whatever. But we were talking this morning, we just had a little discussion about how that development piece is getting hindered by the transfer portal, because now you've got kids coming in and they want to be developed, but they're not patient enough where they are to get developed. Patience is not being really taught anymore. And these guys are coming in and, well, I'm not playing much this year. I'm going to see if I can go over there and play. And then I'm going to see if I can go over there and play. And, even in the professional ranks, you don't have free agents every year.
Right.
A guy can't be a free agent every year. They're going to, they've got to live out a contract. But in college football now, in college athletics now, especially in the upper echelons, you have yearly free agents, and coaches are spending more time. And you've mentioned this word a couple of times, Bo, already, is retention. Coaches are spending more time trying to retain their players and keep them there than they are doing some other things that they probably should be doing. And that's become a big deal. And they've got people on their staff now that really, they're kind of in charge of retention. You know, those guys are behind the scenes trying to do everything they can that when the transfer portal opens, these guys don't want to jump in the portal. They want to stay. And it's harder and harder and harder to do in that world. And that has hindered it. And I feel like it's going to affect professional sport because some of these guys are going to come out and they haven't been properly developed.
Yeah,
and I think
for sure.
I don't know if you guys saw the article or the interview, the excerpts from the interview. But I thought John Calipari last couple of weeks he had a video clip that was really poignant about that one thing. He said these guys jumping from place to place, you know, and he said they're being given all of this money, and he said, you know what? He said at some point they're going to realize that they've missed the development they needed, and they're not going to make it as a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're going to have to go out into the world, and they're going to have to get a real job, you know, and somebody's going to come to them and they're going to offer them a good job, but the salary is going to be $50,000-$60,000 a year. And these guys are going to look at those guys and go, $50,000-$60,000 a year, you know, do I get a place to stay? Do I get a car to drive? You know, I mean, do I get meals with that? You know, and they're going to, you know, because they're going to face a reality that they're not used to because of the way this has happened so suddenly and the amount of money and all of this stuff going around, and that money's not going to be there anymore. And what are they going to do? They're going to, and he said, I'm worried about the mental health of these young people. You know, he said, I'm worried about how their mental health is going to be affected down the road because of all of this.
Yeah, Mike. So it almost makes me think about kind of our society today a little bit. And this, once again, I'm sounding like the old guy, right? But it's almost like we are in a world with social media, like it's like the instant gratification society or whatever, where people they're wanting to have all of these things that they see, and they're wanting to have them without understanding the work it takes to get there, and the development and the consistency and the years, and you know, and so I think going back to that, and I know I think I said this last time, that if you look at, if in today's world, if you can have somebody that's younger, if they can have a good work ethic and really stick around and learn and develop and have the patience, they can really make a difference for themselves and stand out compared to some others who won't have that same work ethic or stick-to-itiveness. Mm-hmm. That and that would separates people, and the people that will have that work ethic, that will have the desire to develop and stick around, those people are going to be very successful in our world if they have that longer term vision like that.
Hey, and speaking of NIL money, I'm the new golf coach at Shorter. If anybody's got anything you want to drop in. But what I would like to say from that standpoint is this. I just want kids who want to be in the program and want to grow and develop and be good people one day and do the same thing for the next generation that I'm trying to do for them. That's you hit the nail on the head, Bo. If people just stick around and do their job, you get so much value in your life out of simply doing something, pursuing something in your life.
Marty, that's part of our job, is to share that wisdom and to provide a vision and show them that vision. And that's part of a leader's job, right? To have that vision so that they can see that and they can aspire to that, right? And so I think maybe it comes around full circle. Maybe it's we've got to do a better job as mentors and leaders at sharing those types of visions with today's youth so they can see that path.
Yeah, I think you're right too, right? You talk about your word. Everybody has a word, right? It seems like my word, Mike, would just be follow. Like follow opportunities. And it's the way I look at it. Like God lays these opportunities in your life. And if you're willing to follow those, I think God lays those trails off to the side as you're pursuing the trail that you're walking on, right? And to me, I think one of the worst problems, and I'm trying to figure out a way to address it. And I think actually the word step up, the two words step up came from this line of thought, is there's so many kids who don't have in their life a purpose, like Bo, like you were just talking about. And I think most of the time it's because the absence of a mentor in their life. They don't have a parent. They don't have an adult friend. They don't have that wise sage to lean into. And so I think maybe the next thing I want to do is just have a program in schools called Step Up, where people who want to make a difference in young people's lives, no matter what their occupation is. It doesn't matter if they're working for D&H Fuel, or if they work for Shorter, if they work for ServPro, or if they're the President of the United States. Just be willing to just follow opportunities that God lays in your path and step up.
Hey, Marty, I think that's awesome. And I think you ought to see that through. I think that's a fantastic vision. And the other thing I would add to that is we have to be open to listen and to be able to receive those opportunities, to be, and when I say that, I mean be open to listening to God, and to seeing those opportunities. And part of that, I believe, is He'll bring those to us as we show Him, consistency in what we're doing. And He will, and He brings us things in all kinds of ways. So I can't say that, right? But for me in my life, that's what's happened. And so, when I've been consistent at listening to Him, being productive, working hard, and good things follow that typically for me in my life. That's what I've seen, but I believe that in general can help others too, if that makes sense.
Mike and I have had this talk many times, haven't we, Mike? Going down the road listening to 80s music. And I'm telling you, I think there's a message in today's show, if there is one, is I think that we need to follow. We need to do what God is pointing. We're going in the direction, hopefully, that God's sending us anyway. But to pursue those goals that God wants, and just like you say, we got to be willing to listen. We got to be willing to do whatever it is He has for us. So, what a great show!
Yeah, guys, I want to bring up one more word before we close it out of here tonight. That I think is important in all of this whole discussion that we've been in. And I mentioned this to Marty earlier this afternoon, and that word is accountability. And I think one of the biggest things you can teach people that you're leading is accountability. And
sure.
First of all, the accountability has to start with you. if you're the leader, you have to be accountable, and you have to hold yourself accountable, but you also have to be held accountable by others. And we could look at a whole lot of different things. There's a whole lot of ways that people don't feel like they should be held accountable in our world today and in our society today. But you find out that the best people, the best leaders, have accountability, and they have people holding them accountable. And the best coaches in the coaching business hold their players accountable for their actions. And Bo, just talk about that from we know a lot about it from the sports and the coaching standpoint, but talk about that from the business standpoint about accountability just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's extremely important, and it's part of, I think, the package on being a leader as well as a good manager, to hold people accountable. And if you don't, those people, we've been talking about, kind of the touchy-feely side of, how important people are and getting them to see, their next steps and growing and all that. But part of that is holding people accountable, and for them to accept and to take on the responsibility of accountability as well. And so this applies not only, Mike, in the workplace or in the sports field, but also as parents and mentors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, I kind of think of it as growing up with my dad. My dad was an old school guy, right? And he would tell me, sometimes not in the nicest ways, but out of a good heart, basically. Sometimes my dad would tell me when I was wrong, and he would tell me what I should have done and what I needed to do. And in doing that, I mean, he was holding me accountable, and in doing something like that, it has people take responsibility for their actions. And I think it's for success in business and in parenting and mentorship, we've got to have accountability. We got to, like you said, Mike, hold ourselves accountable, but then hold our teams and our kids and our mentees, to hold them accountable and to teach them to do the same with the people that they lead.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's, and ultimately all of us are accountable to God, and being a steward of what God gives us, and the talents and the things that He gives us. We're ultimately accountable to Him, but it's up to us as a father. It's been up to me to hold my sons accountable, and to keep them accountable for their actions and make them understand that they are accountable for what they do. Their actions have consequences, and it doesn't matter how much they want to blame somebody else. They are accountable for what they do. They're responsible. You are responsible for what you do. You're not responsible for what someone else does. And you have that accountability there. But in work, you have expectations. Of course, all of us who are leaders in a job or on a team or whatever the case may be, you want to be on time. You want to do a good job. You want to be prepared. All of those things, and those are accountability points that you call people. You tell people, look, you got to improve this. You got to start being on time. You got to start being better prepared. You got to start, having your things together when you get here, instead of having to try to do it in a hurry when you get there, and different things like that. But accountability is just so big,
And Mike, a couple of things that you just mentioned that I think are key is you got to set the expectations. Mm-hmm. Here's what's expected of you, right? Yeah. And then you also have to communicate. So if they're not meeting those expectations, you've got to communicate and teach and coach about those expectations, and then how they can improve, what their performance is and how they can improve. And I think it's important to tell them the good stuff that they're doing, of course, but then to also hold them accountable for the things that they are not meeting expectations on. Because how is somebody going to know if you don't tell them, right? And so it's I think it's a simple concept, but it does take a lot of intention for people to be able to do that, to be direct and to really bring up hard subjects to hold people accountable to meeting those expectations. But I think by doing that, all through the different levels we've talked about, through business, sports, kids, everything, you make better people out of that, right? So people aren't, like you said, Mike, they're not blaming others for something that's their responsibility, right? They're taking accountability themselves.
That's the best moment. You're doing it right when that happens.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, you're going to see real growth when people start holding themselves accountable and taking responsibility for their own actions. That's when you grow as a person, and that's when kids grow up. I think it's when they start to take responsibility for their own actions and realize when that bell goes off and they realize, hey, if I just do this and take care of me, a whole lot of other stuff goes better. It's fun to watch when that happens.
I don't know.
The same way going up through the ranks in adulthood and through employment and all of that kind of thing. It's the same way when you see that bell go off with somebody, when that light bulb goes on in their head, and they come to that realization. Wow, the growth that takes place.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know if I said this last time or not, but my dad told me one time, he said, Bo, the older you get, the smarter I will get. And I said, at the time I was young, I was like, what the heck is he talking about? And then I remember the day many years later where it hit me, and I said, oh, wow, that's what he was talking about. Yeah, I get it now. But it was that realization of that. And it's like, wow, it really went off in my head that.
I saw a T-shirt, probably been at least 30 years ago now, that somebody was wearing, and it was really that very thing. It said, "The older I get, the smarter my parents were."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's true. The older you get, the smarter your parents were, because you start to see that they weren't just hounding you. They weren't just trying to crack the whip on you all the time. They were trying to get you to help you avoid pitfalls, and to help you avoid mistakes maybe that they made. And it's amazing how age and experience will lead you back down that path, and you see, oh, that's what they meant. That's what's going on. And it's amazing how that works.
Hey guys,
our time.
Can I say one thing before we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Going back to the portal and everything. So the one thing I think college sports or the NCAA needs to do, they need to change the timing of the portal. This whole thing about it, December and January during bowl games and everything, it's horrible.
Yes.
And I think about it during, that these are also students during the school year. And I know, it makes it difficult on the coaching and the teams and all this, but maybe it'll slow down the transfer or whatever. I think they ought to do it like in the summertime at the end of school. And that maybe creates problem for summer practice. But I just think the whole timing of it right now is really horrible, and it makes it difficult on teams and athletes.
I agree with that totally right there. I think move it back closer to the end of school than where it is, because right now it's just wreaks havoc.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It does. It really does. It is.
Oh, we appreciate having you, man. We're going to have you back again. I think more music talk, because there's power in that.
Well, Mike and I definitely got some music talk in us. So
yeah.
Hey, I don't know if I told you guys at Georgia Southern when I went to school there, I was a disc jockey on the radio station there.
Oh, man.
Cool. So I had a lot of fun there. And I hope y'all hold me accountable. Hopefully we'll have some good viewership of the show today. And I just appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are stepping up and making a difference and living your slogan and your show. And I really appreciate you all and hope that I've added something to it. So thank you all very much.
You have.
We appreciate you have. Absolutely. Go ahead, Marty.
You have. We appreciate you. We go way back, you and I, and it was all good, There's a lot of people I go back with, and it wasn't all good. But with you, man, you've always been a solid guy from the day I met you. And I like the way you approach life and the way you deal with it from a Christian perspective, and your wisdom shines through in all you do. So we appreciate having you, man. And we're going to have you back. You're just going to be that recurring guest.
Okay.
Every now and then. How about you?
Absolutely. We will have you back because it's always a great time to talk, and time gets away from us, and that's when you're going well, when you look up and you're like, wow, we've already been talking for an hour. And we appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you all, and it's an honor, and thank you again.
Well, for Bo and Marty, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2026. We hope here on Step Up, Make a Difference, the podcast, that we do or say something that will help you make 2026 your best year ever. We're here to help you grow. We're here to help you just do some things in your life to make things better. And we're here to help you be willing. As we always say every time we close out of this, we want you to be willing to step up and make a difference when the opportunity comes, because it will come. And sometimes it will come multiple times in succession. And God will open doors, and the pathway will be there. You just have to choose to take it. And we hope that something we do or say here helps you learn to have the confidence to be willing to step up and make a difference. And for Bo Sasnett, our guest, and for Marty Durden, and the new, by the way, and we had Marty mentioned it a little bit ago, but the new interim head golf coach at Shorter University now. The man, the myth, the legend is back at it on golf courses everywhere. Be watching for him at these college golf tournaments coming up. But congratulations on that, Marty. But be willing, and there's a prime example right there. Marty Durden was willing to step up and make a difference in the lives of those college golfers at Shorter University, and he's willing to stand in that gap when the coaching vacancy occurred, and he was right there, and he said, absolutely, I'll step up and make a difference, and he will. There's no doubt in my mind. So, we wish you the best with that, Marty, as the season gets started here, probably in about 3 or 4 more weeks, right? That first tournament's coming up.
That's right.
So. But anyway, folks, have a great week, and we will see you again next week with another great guest here on Step Up, Make a Difference. For now, it is good night. Have a great week, and